Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial cast. I am still your host and hype man sort of thing, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi. I got my mask on the internet. I am still joined by the impeccable, the insatiable, the incredible Sam Hatgood, otherwise known as Initialize. Please introduce yourself.
You're too kind, Lexi. Yeah, of course. I'm Sam Initialize Hapgood, as given to me in fairly extravagant fashion there.
I mean, I tried to use every synonym I could think of that basically began with I for you.
And I will take it. It's a pleasure to have that thrown at me as we're coming into another DFM Hawks DFM game, and this time it's versus the SoftBank Hawks, and I'm pretty excited for this one. DFM did win the last game, but it was a lot closer than I think many were expecting.
But it does improve them to that 10-1 lead that they have now over that table. They are now 2 wins over the second place team, which basically means even with back-to-back wins for Sengoku, the second place team, they can only at best tie, which now puts DFM in that winner bracket. That's how big that win was for DFM.
Huge.
That was huge win for them. It's actually incredible to look back and see that they were 1 win away from always guaranteeing that spot. Now that they have that spot, the rest of the table have to be incredibly worried, and Sengoku are in a very good spot to basically almost lock up that second place spot, especially with CGA. Only teams now in that 4 and 6 spot have to win out, and the Sengoku have to lose at minimum 2. So they have to lose 2 and 2, and only at best people can tie them. This is getting very much all to play for in this in the playoff spots, and these lower teams, everything is really to play for, and as spots are going to be coming locked up probably by the end of this week, and potentially in that first game of tomorrow, week 7. Going into this game though, it's going to be DFM versus the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming, and this is going to be a really big one for the Hawks. They are currently tied for 4th place with 5 other teams. They are sitting up at the very top or bottom of that standings, depending on how you're looking at it, in different ways that you can. But when you have so many tied, that first spot, that first win really puts you in that great spot, and it does tie you with Crest. That ties you for 3rd place, and getting into that spot, I cannot understate how important it is.
All right, yeah.
You've got nothing into it. I'm
just trying to sort of like put this into the gravity of the situation. Like DFM are kind of the only team that are feeling happy with their place in the standings outside of maybe Sengoku, who breathed a sigh of relief last week when they picked up the 2 wins. But for everybody else, they are clawing tooth and nail to get their way into playoffs at all.
It really is.
And the Hawks have got a really rough first game of this week, and that is versus DFM, who have lost only the 1 game this split, and even then it wasn't exactly an easy loss that they took. So like this is going to put them down where they've got three games potentially if they don't win this game, which I suspect is kind of likely. 3 games to try and put themselves into a position to be in playoff.
It's gonna be very tight, and this is one of the teams that basically everyone really doesn't want to face now. You kind of already wanted to have your losses going into this week, because if you had already had your losses against DFM, you're sitting on a buffer than potentially other teams. We've got Axis, another one of these teams where we've been very hopeful for them, but they've got a DFM game, which in a lot of stances is looking incredibly hard. Sengoku are the other team that the Hawks are going to be facing off against today, and that's another team that has been looking incredibly strong. The only other team to have a really high win rate now going into this game, and especially a win streak of 4 wins in a row across these last 2 weeks. Going into this game though of DFM versus the Hawks, I'm expecting this mid lane duo again to be so important. This is the matchup that we were all very hyped for that kind of was a little bit underwhelming in its first triumph. That is Syros versus Ramune, facing off against Steel and Tussle for the jungles respectively. Where do you think this is going? What do you think is going to happen?
I kind of agree with you. Like, there is going to be an issue in that well, not an issue, but like the way the Hawks have been playing is that when they are winning, it's on the back of Tussle and Ramune having a lot of early priority, a lot of early agency where they can get out of the mid lane, can find their way to other lanes.
Yep.
Particularly for people like Dasher, who's been looking for these 1v1s a lot, and then finding they're not 1v1s, they're 2v1s or 3v1s out of nowhere, and then losing that. But if Ramune and Tussle are kind of in a place to come and assist him, it's a 3v3 or a 2v2. And that is suddenly a lot better statement for the side of the Hawks. Honey as well looks fantastic when he's on the front foot. Has sometimes struggled to find good positioning when they're on a back foot, struggles to find safer spaces to still put out damage. And that's one of those risks about being a newer AD carry, and it has bit the Hawks once or twice.
Well, once or twice, some would say 4 times, because they are currently on a 4-loss streak. They are the opposite end of where Sengoku are. When they were the 4-2 team, Sengoku was 2-4, and now they've completely swapped places. It does raise a lot of questions. Are the Hawks going to even be able to make playoffs with how their compositions and their lineups have been coming on the Rift? They haven't been looking anywhere near as strong as these first 3 weeks that they had, and coming into these later weeks, it's really gotten tight for them, and they've given up a lot of wins where they probably didn't need to if they played a little bit safer. But with that in mind, I think it's worth for us just going straight onto the Rift and getting into that pick and ban phase. And as it is a blast from the past from us, not very long though, because the LJL was actually streaming while we were still, when we first started, so we're not too far behind than we normally are sometimes. I will quickly count us in. So in 3, 2, 1... Alright, let's get into this pick and ban phase.
Alright, we are in, and this time around, Detonation FocusMe will be on the blue side. And they've got Ebby in the top lane, Steel in the jungle, Seros in the mid lane, and then Utapon and Gang are their bot lane.
And for the Hawks, my Hawks, we got
I just realized.
Oh yeah!
Casting the Hawks.
You got the hype Hawks man casting the Hawks. I'm all about this. We've got Dasher in the top lane. We've got Tussle in the mid lane. Ramune in the mid lane. We've got Honey as our carry, and we've got Pooh Bear as our support. Oh, I'm so hyped to be casting a Hawks game. Oh, God. Fukuoka Hawks.
So excited for you. We've got some fairly important bans that have come through. LeBlanc, Lucian, and Senna taken off the board.
That Lucian still taken away from Ramune, Honey, Dasher. That combo, that flex that they just have over on the Hawks is just pulling so much pressure every time. But you said really importantly, that's just a full...
Well, look at that. Full court press onto Seros' champion pool.
But they left Evie for his first game. Oh, he's doing it! Yes, he got the thumbs up! I love this man. This is why everybody in the LJL has so much affinity for Evie. He gives that thumbs up and he wins the game. He will try and put a team on his back if he has to. And this is his first Ornn game. We mentioned this in our previous game versus Crest. Okay, but then the Hawks do get to put Honey on arguably his best champion of Aphelios.
Yeah, he is a great Aphelios player, and we'll see what they go to respond with it. We kind of glossed over it a little bit as well. They're going towards Tussle's Jarvan, which is very good. Steel as well. It's a good job of taking that away. It's a pretty strong one.
Well, we saw in that last game.
See what Seros actually goes towards at this. Well, they got rid of the 6, they got rid of the Hiding, they got rid of the Karma, his serious pocket picks. He still does have things like
Cassiopeia that he played in the last game.
That he's pulled out.
Yeah,
exactly. But assuming they don't pick up a mid laner in this first round, it could well see a Cassiopeia and a Syndra ban yet. Steel now picks up. That's a set, isn't it? I think Steel picks up the set for DFM. It could be a set junk, it could be a mid lane set, or it could actually just be flexing their Ornn around. I doubt that's going to be a Teemo pick, but one can live in hope and slight fear.
I think Seros is just doing a gang special and hovering that Teemo till it locks in, and we get an Ezreal for Utapon. This could also be a mid. I would not be surprised if we're seeing a lot of flex picks and potentially they're going to play around with these next few picks and bans from the Hawks.
I still suspect that's going to be an Ezreal bot. Utapon's already had a couple of very good games on that champion, so it'd be unsurprising to see that there. For the Hawks, though, pick up the Taric. That Taric Jarvan combo was pretty instrumental in DFM's team fight successes in the last game, so we know it's a tried and true combo. You throw the flag and drag down, you Cataclysm, but on top of it, you've got the celestial radiance, that cosmic radiance available to keep yourself in good space.
So the Hawks have to ban Yuumi with these 2 bans. There's no way you can let Yuumi go through.
Olaf, Yuumi, yeah, they're the ones
with
you have to
Olaf,
go for, isn't it?
Yuumi, but they ban the Olaf, so that's a good way to do it. But they can still put it on. It's still pretty good on Set as well, as if that's going to be your jungler. Set with Yuumi and Ezreal is a very, very strong combination. Not as strong as the Olaf, obviously, but this is going to get interesting as we go through and we see a Vladimir band that's going that top lane. That does suggest then this is going to be an Ornn in the top lane.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see potentially a Vladimir versus the Set either. You do get another one of those lanes where you can potentially outrange a lot of what Set does, and you can pull a lot of him when he does the combos.
Yes!
And there's that Yuumi ban. Yeah, Olaf Yuumi completely off the board. Pretty disgusting champions at this point in the meta. So absolutely understand that ban. I'll be curious to see where DFM go with this last ban.
So do you ban the Cassiopeia?
Well, it could be something like the Rumble, maybe, that Ramane has defaulted to them, but they've gone towards the Corki.
As we saw in the Hawks' first game, Ramane pulled out that Corki.
Yeah, and again, it does combo really well with things like the Taric and the Java, and you fly over it and throw down the burning package, and things are pretty scary. Thinking about a Mordekaiser pickup, though, the Hawks, and they do lock it in.
Okay. I'd like to get Nymeris on this, because I don't think this is a very good pick.
So we've seen Ebby particularly on the Set really what's the word? Bully Mordekaiser. And particularly if you would go back to the Axis game versus DFM, there was a massive level 1 kind of advantage that Ebby got over the Mordekaiser using the Facebreaker to keep the Mordekaiser zoned off the wave. Of course, there is still a certain amount of flexibility. Mordekaiser mid is not unheard of. It is the Braum locked in, though, for Gang, and that's Ezreal Braum is one of those safer bot lanes. Tired of getting dived, are they? And I think Steel's thinking about a Karthus pickup.
Okay, so this is going to be a Set in the mid lane or an Ornn in the mid lane.
The Elise.
Yeah, so this Set was always actually never going in the jungle. It was just a bait, which that's why the Hawks played their own draft. They stopped pretending, except for that Mordekaiser pick. They basically played their own draft, which now means they have to pick their mid laner, knowing that they're against either an Ornn or a Set. So,
Ramane picks up his Vel'Koz. He has been known to play this, and I'm so excited. We've seen last pick save for Ramane once or twice. Sometimes to great effect. Sometimes to not so good effect, such as when he picked the Ahri and it looked a touch useless. But the fact that you have got this sort of true damage, disintegrate, that you get with the ultimate from Vel'Koz is huge. If you can reset your opponent, the deconstruction passive is very, very strong. So I wonder whether Seros could be in a bit of a difficult situation in this mid lane.
I was thinking that exact same thought. This is also, though, an interesting spot for Syros. This is a champion we haven't seen him on, and this is a very different type of champion. This isn't how you play Karma. You don't play Ornn the same way you play you play Karma, you play Heimer, you play Cassiopeia. This is not his normal wheelhouse, so I am excited to see this, even if it is against Ramane. Ooh, I'm not confident, but if there's any man that can pull it off, it would be Syros. And this is actually going to be our LJL Officially Unofficial's game of the week, because there is so much to play for DFM facing off against the Hawks. There is so much decided here for the Hawks' future, as this is one of the games where if they don't quite pull it off, well, what do they do moving forward?
Well, let's have a look at some of these team comps a little bit. My read potentially on the DFM one is you've got the sort of that beefy front line with a certain amount of engage between the Set, the Ornn, the Braum, and your main carry is this mid-game spiking Ezreal, who's going to be looking to get picks with all that engage and the dive that an Elise can bring. But on the other side, for the side of the Hawks, when they're looking at things like a Vel'Koz, an Aphelios, that massive team fight combo between the Vel'Koz ultimate, the Jarvan Cataclysm, the Aphelios Moonlight Vigil, they're going to want to be hitting those mid-game team fights pretty hard as well, and they've just got more damage.
They really are, and DFM are going for a very early team fight if they can, pressuring
Well,
very
they've got
quickly.
a very good level 1. Braum level 1 is really good. Like, completely honest with you. And Ezreal level 1 with his Q is a fair amount of damage. Febby start of the face breaker could be pretty strong. Going to be forcing potentially vertical jungling here. The Hawks Dasher does go down and throw a ward over by the Wolves and the blue buff of DFM. And DFM just do for a little stroll through the enemy jungler and then back off to their own side of the jungle. Steel's actually looking to be starting at his blue buff, potentially.
It does look like the blue buff is going to be where they start. It looks like they're going to be doing a similar to what happened in DFM's last game, where they do very similar jungle pass for this first clear, going blue side and then going up for the side of the...
Thinking about going for a late invade here, Dasher will have spotted Ebby and Steel coming in here, but it means it will be a red side start over for the side of DFM, and it will be vertical jungling potentially enabled as Utapon is coming up to try and steal away the blue buff. Mystic shot, not quite right time. It means that Tussle does get a hold of the blue and will turn up to lane. Sadly, Utapon with no pressure on, well, no blue buff to his name. Nice idea there.
I mean, imagine if he gets that. That basically just ends Tussle for like the first 4 minutes.
The face breaker is huge with the Conqueror stacked, and Dasher takes a lot of damage. Yes, he has the Darkness Rises. Yes, he has the Obliterate, but that is a lot of damage. And Steel is here at level 2. Could go for that tower dive potentially. Looking for level 3. Doesn't have it. And it
he
means
won't get it from Krugs.
No, he won't. And that means that the teleport has to be burned at level 1 from the side of Dash. He's coming back with a health bar at least, but has the health bar advantage. But it's another good face breaker on that wave. Conqueror stacked. Yes, the Darkness Rises is here. Massive Haymaker is big for the side of it.
And this is the second time we've seen a player draft the Mordekaiser into a set, and I just go, this is a bad matchup for Mordekaiser. And then this happens. And this is the second time Ebby has done this versus a Mordekaiser. Don't pick Mordekaiser into set. It's not a winning matchup, and these early games are so important.
Yeah, it could be, but of course Tussle has pathed all the way up here, and Steel is not around yet. Desperately wants level 3.
Steel's coming out.
Tussle, now they've spotted them. It's going to be a fight. Tussle's gank is going to be turned around. The attempted release on the pressure not going to be available. At least Dasher has got to level 3, but that's a decent Death's Grasp that counters out the face breaker, but takes a lot of damage from the 1-2 left-right punches of this set. And Dash is now potentially at risk. If this cocoon lands, we could see a very dead Mordekaiser. Tussle still around.
Oh, he's so far back.
The cocoon yet.
Oh, he flashed.
Flashes the cocoon. Steel has gone in, but he's getting poked out really. Massive face breaker. Gonna get the first blood. Is at least, but Tussle's gonna try and trade it back. Does get it back. And now Tussle has a red buff and damage and flag and drag. He's gonna try and turn it around. The Haymaker.
Oh my god!
Big, but Ebby's now in trouble. And the minions are here. I think Tussle's gonna get 2 kills. DFM diving too hard. But the face breaker to cancel out the flag. But it's not enough. And that means 2 kills to Tussle, but the wave lost for this Mordekaiser who didn't have teleport either, and it's pushing back to Ebby. So yeah, it's a gain. Tussle's got a decent 2-kill lead. The flash was a touch late from Steel, but massive Twitter DFM.
Ever since the Sengoku game,
it's still...
No one thinks the Hawks can be beat. Basically, no one thinks anyone but the Hawks can. Oh no, not but Sengoku can actually beat DFM, which is actually an interesting narrative that we over on the cast, the podcast, have been talking about as we get a slight lull phase happening here as Sengoku prep for this dragon. We always said if there's any team that potentially could beat DFM, it would be Sengoku. I don't think we've never really said any other team definitively could beat DFM.
I mean, we had hopes in the preseason about the Hawks. We saw where they could be really strong. And we've seen it early on in this game as well. Tussle kind of matching what Steel and Ebby were looking to do. It is still a massive lead for this set. He's very far ahead in CS. He's got the level advantage as well. Dasher going to be in a bit of a tricky spot as Ebby's frozen the wave and Dasher's desperately trying to farm from range with those Death's Grasps. I also want to point out that the Observer did show us that it's a cull start for this Ezra, who kind of knows that he's going to need to be scaling for damage, but also knows that a lot of the early pressure from Steel was going to be towards this set in the top lane.
Yeah, that's a very smart way. That just showed, like, this is a team, when Utapon has played on the team as long, is this, well, him and Syros have played on this team since it was founded. This is a team where they just trust each other regardless, because they know it when they
Going
do.
in is Gang for the stuns here, but that's a good turnaround with the Gravitum Q. And actually, Utapon and Gang at a fairly low point in health bar, but they do have a couple pots in inventory to burn, should pull them back. And because Gang stopped the back from Honey, that's pretty big. But actually, call the Force Gods here. Ramone does get the knockup, and actually, Seros missed that ultimate. I think he was a bit worried about the turnaround from Ramone. I'd have to look back over the replay, but yeah, just missed it.
That looked like a miss over on my screen as well. Was surprising as Ebby has picked up level 6 here.
But Tussel's here did get spotted with the ward in that bush. Ebby's gonna have to back away. The Darkness Rise is passive from Dasher, doing a fair amount to trade that back. But of course, Conqueror is a big deal. Yeah, relatively even trade in the end. Though I would say Dasher probably gets the slight better of that health bar trade. All the while, though, Steel claims first Drake for DFM.
That was a Mountain Drake, so that's not going to do a huge amount. Mountain Drake early on, especially only one of them, doesn't do a huge amount. So that's a Drake that the Hawks can give over, but be aware, DFM outside of Crest are one of the few teams that aggressively prioritize these dragons. As we saw in our first game, the Hawks are one of these teams which are more open to letting dragons go in this early point. So it's going to be interesting to pay attention to that over the next few team fights.
And the CS lead in this top lane continues to grow. It's 20 at the minute. And Ebby is once again zoning away this Mordekaiser. You pulled him towards you. I'm not sure you want to do that. Just really good comboing, steps in beyond the Obliterate. And that's 2/3 for just about a quarter of a health bar trade. Ebby once again taking advantage of this matchup.
This is just a Mordekaiser who's having to go back and still doesn't have that TP up from when he was forced to go back at
level 6 yet.
Yeah, and I don't understand how when Ebby just came back to lane, I guess with TP, granted, but how Dasha still isn't 6. And this is a concerning thing when you get free pick into that top lane where you know it's either against an Ornn or a Set, you pick the Mordekaiser. What were you expecting? As Ebby has done this before. He did it against an Ornn before.
Needs to stop.
He's done this before, and now Steel's up here for that protection. He's going to find that ward here, which is going to just mean Tussle is coming in here just for pressure purposes as he does make his way on the top side. As Ramone is now having to come up as well, giving Syros a free lane. That is not where you want to be.
And they're just trying to delay the level 6 for as long as they can. Ramone is finally going to wander back to the mid lane. At least had it pushed out so he's not losing any CS. But yeah, no, Dasher, even having picked up that wave, only just ticks level 6 as I was about to call him out on it. And that is huge. Seros just poking around. Tussle's here, though, as Steel and Ebby start up this Reptile. Seros is here, going to be tanked up a little bit. The Disintegrate not going to be stacked, but the
Ebby, though.
Ebby's here. Has got the face. Breaker has got the show. Stopper comes in, forces the flash, and this time the call of the land actually gets shoved back into the Haymaker, which is huge. Ebby flashing out, though. A Gang has turned up. So has Pooh. And actually low health bars. Ebby is finally going to die to an Obliterate from Dash, who runs down. And that means that the Hawks pick up the kill off some good positioning. Looked pretty good early on, but the 4th member was enough to turn it around for Hawks in the end. Ebby thought he was out, but no, that was a Mordekaiser roam.
So I think there was a lot of miscommunication there from the side of DFM. Steel was still doing Rift Herald for a lot of that team fight, which you have to assume Syros and Ebby were on the assumption that Steel was just going to be with them or far closer than he was. He still took, and you can watch for this replay, Steel is still attacking this Rift Herald, still attacking the Rift Herald, even with Ebby leaving him. It's still 1,000 as Ebby runs in, and there is no sign of Steel as he's still getting this Rift Herald, doing all this fighting action, goes incredibly low for Ebby and Syros. And
there's a good flag and drag there, and that ult by the Vel'Koz at the end of it, ticking Ebby down so very low. Steel is here, but Ebby, because of where he ended up, means he can't escape. It is still the Rift Herald to DFM, though, so it's a 1 kill for the Rift Herald trade, and you'll probably take that. Tussle is off to the races here at 2-0-1. He's already at his jungle completed items, got a Ruby Crystal inventory as well. relatively tanky Jarvan, ready to be throwing some pretty hard engages down.
It is something you're okay with, but the problem is that's a fight that you chose as the side of DFM to go for. That was another fight you had to go for. Ebby could have just not run in, just basically mirrored up with Syros in the mid lane and just slowly push it out. They didn't have to fight there, and they could have just basically given vague protection, really, for Steel with this Rift Herald, and then potentially as a team pushed in the mid lane if able to, which is questionable because that's the first mistake you could argue for DFM going for a fight when they didn't need to.
All of this top side focus, though, has meant that Honey and Pooh have been able to push in a little bit more aggressively, have picked up a fairly good CS lead for themselves here. It'll even 16, up to about 10.
That's 2 waves, basically.
I think it should even up a little bit as Utapon gets a hold on this wave, but yes, it could well be up to about 15. But on the side of that, Ebby is still very far ahead. Glance like a coon to steal onto Tussle, but not going to go any further. Cloud Drake will be spawning in just about 10 seconds. And look at some of those items. It's BF Sword and GLP complete now, for the Vel'Koz on top of the BF Sword from Aphelios. Ebby has roamed down, has got a big level advantage, so this set is huge. GLP thrown out. The Q comes out from Mamane for the knockup. And that is a fair amount of damage down onto this set, or at least it would be if he decided to use the Deconstruction passive. Tussle is here in a wave. Saros is going to find him, though. And they actually found a pick onto Honey. The Cosmic Radiance is down. Going to get a knock-up either way. That Cosmic Radiance is still down, but that's a big Cataclysm. Honey picks up the kill onto this Ramana picks up the kill to steal, and the Ord is down as well. And now Dasher is here onto the back of Gang, and he's possibly in trouble as well. Has to flash out. Ebby is here. It is 2 kills for none. Well played by the Hawks.
I'm really confused. It seemed like DFM again miscommunication on the objectives, and when they want to go for it, Steel starting it up and then just kind of having to run off. Syros was basically a no man's land 4v1ing.
Yeah, it's going to be an Infernal Rift as well, which is pretty huge. That's a nice route now, and it's a double dazzle, but the door is up. It's going to keep Utapon fairly safe. That's a good Crescendum ult, though, just for a little bit more damage. Gang takes a lot at the end of that.
God, thank God for the door, or that could have been incredibly concerning for the side, but that is important. The Rift, now being an Infernal Rift, DFM or the Hawks getting 3 of those, that's a lot of scaling damage as we come into this replay.
So, yes. Let's have a look. I want to see how Tussle gets in here. They know he's kind of around because he's been walking up a vision to even get in. They engage onto Honey and Pooh. The Call of the Forge comes down, but the Cosmic Radiance is already there, and that means that the turnaround is huge.
Oh, God, and then that damage, just Ramane comes in behind and then just clean up shop. They just basically delete Syros before he can really do anything outside of ulting, and then at the same time destroy Steel as he tries to run away.
Either way, while the kills are in the advantage of the Hawks, it's still only a couple hundred gold lead because Rift Herald plays there and does even that up a little bit. And
that gold lead that we still have in the start from that top lane as well.
It's pretty big, exactly. But this Vel'Koz is very much online, has got a GLP and that Fiendish Codex, which is a nasty combo. Tussle's 2-0 and 3. Merc Dread's Kindle Gem at the minute in his inventory is pretty scary. The Mordekaiser is behind, but not to the point where he's completely useless. He's got of the Ninja Tabis, which is a great matchup. That's like, what, 3 cloth armors worth of armor into basically the set, which is going to stop his passion. On the winning point, though, for DFM is that, yes, set is still strong. We've still got the Ornn items which should come through at some point, and of course Ezreal has been farming up just fine in this spot. So
Tussle is currently having arguably one of his best games, and we do need to give him credit. He's all over this map and has been able to be wherever Steel is to pick up the opposite end. He's also been a very important point for basically punishing DFM for them not respecting him specifically. Currently sitting on that 2-0-3, as well as Ramane, who's also sitting at a very precious and very good 1-0-1 against Syros. This is looking like a far better game for the side of the Hawks compared to when they first faced off against DFM. And this is a team which we said before, when they start getting a little bit ahead, they can play very well from ahead.
Yeah, and this is the second game in a row where DFM have lost some skirmishes early and put themselves into a bit of a tricky position. They're still farming well, they're still finding ways to be engaged in the game, but at the minute, it's still advantage to Hawks to the point where they are now going to start up the second Herald. Gang and Utapon have rotated up, but so have Honey and Pooh. we'll see where the DFM want to contest. Set is pushing and the bot lane has teleport available. So they're going to try and get some pressure down while the Herald has started. DFM are thinking about contesting, but the Sentinel turret is up. That's a cocoon. That's, sorry, a cataclysm in order to steal. But he's taking a lot of damage. The Cosmic Radiance is in, and that's going to save the Jarvan's life. Steal will die now, you believe. Yeah, Honey picks up that kill. But Ezreal going forward. Ebbie's
behind.
Well. There's going to be a huge showstopper, but that means the flash out from Tussle keeps him safe. Ebbie's in the middle of everybody.
This Rift Herald was very low.
It's picked up by, I don't even know it.
DFM, I think Seros got it.
Seros might well have picked it up. Ebbie is going to fall down, though. So, yes, that's a big Moonlight Vigil. Actually, the fight's not over.
No,
trying to get in.
they're hungry.
The Blast Plant is here, but Seros...
Yeah.
Spectator bug, it's fine. Yes, no one picks up the Herald because the DFM can't get back there to pick it up. The Hawks pick up 2 kills, and they'll still be able to break this mid lane turret just by virtue of having more members alive, you imagine. And Ramone has still got his ultimate, no less.
And this is a fight where we are still seeing that potentially getting Rift Herald almost doesn't matter for the side of the Hawks. They don't even need it necessarily for the turret plating that could have been there, which normally goes around the same time as getting Rift Herald, so they couldn't burst it down. So actually, it more benefits them here.
Yeah, and this was looking like Steel kind of gets caught out here. He doesn't die straight away, which is good for him. Repels up and buys some time. It's a good Glacial Fissure, but the Cosmic Radiance is through in time to save
3 members.
Life. Steel again does survive, but look at Ebbie. You think he found the perfect flank, but Tussle flashes out, which saves his life, and that means that Ebbie is now just stuck in the middle of everybody and eventually goes down.
Yeah, and the problem for him there is the other side of Utapon just had no good avenue to ever get into that fight to really start doing some Ezreal Qs and auto attacks, and Seros just has to run away for his life to actually get out.
Yeah, look at some of these items though we're looking at. It's going to be a Trinity Force buy for Ezreal eventually, but on the top lane as well, it's a Wit's End first item complete for Set, which I suppose versus the lanes that he will be fighting or in the side lanes of the Vel'Koz and the Mordekaiser, it makes a lot of sense. And I kind of like that pickup, but it's an unusual stop off before going towards the completion of the Trinity Force or the Black Cleaver, depending on where this phage goes.
And I really like this. The Hawks immediately going, well, we know Seros is mid. We know he's at top lane. He does have the TP, but that's not a huge concern for us. As we can see the gold grass coming in very even in that mid lane and the bot lane. Well, 300 gold, but that's negligible at that point. Huge advantage, though, for Tussle. But a huge advantage then for Ebbie. So it's kind of evened out in that sense. And Support's doing Support's thing and the bottom there.
Yes, indeed.
3k gold. I'm so used to 4k gold at this point in the game.
And at this point, we're going to see Seros and Ramone trade turrets. Top tower for DFM, for bot tower for the Hawks. And they're in a pretty good spot, but you're right. Tussle is 3-0-4, is on his way towards a stone plate pretty soon as well, I imagine, with the Kindle Gem and the armor and magic. And yeah, that will be the good second item pickup here post boots.
It's just going to take him probably 5 to 10 minutes to get that item as a support, because you have to wait so much on that passive gold that you do get as a support.
Yeah, and it is this glacial Vel'Koz as well. We've not really talked about that rune.
No, we haven't.
But of course, it's the GLP and the Twin Shadows on top of that glacial. If you find a slow, it means that Vel'Koz lands all his abilities. He has so much true damage locked into his kit if you can stack up his passive. And with those abilities to lock people down, it's just easy for everybody else in his team to get in. And versus something like a Set as well that is kind of quite kiteable, all those slows are potentially really powerful too.
So something that I have noticed coming up in the next 40 seconds is going to be this Baron. Now, it looks like everybody's summoners, by that point, excluding potentially Dasher and Ebbie, that all the summoners should be up and ready to go. I would not be surprised, because Baron's still very far off, at least 3 to 4 minutes away, till we're seeing a dragon come on the rift. I wouldn't be surprised if the teams decide to fight over this, or potentially some mid-Baron pressure. You have to also assume the Hawks, they will also be looking to get up another turret to match turret advantage. With DFM, they'll be looking also towards that top turret to even it up.
Yeah, and not just that, though. Speaking of things that have just come online, that is the Muramana, for Utapon that has
Yes.
transformed. 2-item spike is complete for Ezreal, just ticking over 20 minutes, or just before that. They're going to try and find some poke onto Ramonate, which is fairly big. The Braum shield is so massive versus the
Oh,
Disintegrate
no, that
from
was not a good
Ramonate.
stopwatch, mate. Oh, he
Yeah,
gets
was
flashes out for it.
Yeah, it does have
And
to flash
heal.
up for it. Yeah, it does. The heal is burnt as well. Seros holding on just about to this top lane turret, but Ramonay now no ultimate and could be at a bit of risk of being dived from the mid lane as long as Tussle's not around.
Yeah, that's going to be a very concerning thing, and obviously it's very hard for Ornn to really stop Aphelios from grinding a turret down, as that's what Aphelios is very strong at doing, especially once they hit these item spikes, especially once the Hurricane comes in for Honey. It's going to be so hard to stop the team fights from Aphelios, especially if if he has his chakrams.
All right, so let's check in with some of these win conditions. Ezreal's win conditions are online. Trinity Force, Muramana are there. That's good stuff. We're looking at Ornn and his 2 items going to be starting to upgrade things. Set, not quite his Trinity Force, but is not in a bad point in the side lanes. On the other side, though, Tussle is way ahead of the game. Aphelios picked up his 2 items, and the Aphelios at 201, the Vel'Koz at 104, both ready for these mid-game team fights, and Tussle more than ready to start them as well. Level 11 for that rank 2 Cataclysm, no less.
Yeah, one thing that is really interesting, while it is a 1-7 win at the moment.
Bit of a fight over Tussle, who's going to get slowed by the Braum passive.
Dash is coming in, Ramonade's coming in.
Knocked up here. No, he does get stunned, but has got the flag and drag timed just about right.
And
but has had to burn his flash to get out there. But Honey picks up the top side. Ebby going to get pulled towards Dasher, which I'm not sure is what that Mordekaiser was hoping for. Hasn't popped the Death Realm yet. May have to think about it. Ebby doing so much work with that Wit's End. Flashes out of the cocoon.
Ebby that's so smart by Dasher.
Massive haymaker. Just pokes his head in. Gets a kill on his own with a little bit of assistance from the Elise.
I was expecting
Dasher doesn't survive that.
To just be able to survive that. I don't think he was expecting potentially for Ebby to actually be able to take him down, as Ebby does just push this bot lane turret, tier 2 as well. That would really open up the map for the side of DFM to really keep applying pressure in spots where they're not expecting it. And playing around the map is something that DFM are very good at. And that's the problem. The Hawks, while they've had a kill advantage, they haven't had that gold lead, which they really use and exploit to really push games forward.
Well, all the gold lead they've had has been very negligible. It's like been hundreds, not thousands.
Yes.
And I think what happened there at the end of that with the pretty good mostly 1v1 there between Ebby and Dasher is that the set effect, the Mordekaiser are Death Realm, but when he tried to walk under tower, he realized that's as far as he can go. The edge of the Death Realm was there, had no room to dodge, and that meant it was an easy setup for the Haymaker. At least that's what I'm thinking happened.
Well,
he just decided there was no chance he was surviving.
I think that's also the Liandry's versus Wit's End coming in very effectively. Set can get his stacks very quickly on his Wit's End, which can just prevent a lot of what Liandry's is going to try and do. And because Mordekaiser's not at that 2-item spike, which we see so commonly becoming in so important, it's very hard, as we're seeing again.
It's starting again, Dasher, no!
You don't win these.
They've got nothing anymore. He's got a shield. But so does Ebby. He's just waiting on the Haymaker. Flashes for a last punch, and the Pit Boss is showing this Iron Revenant that a Tin Can Man is just another punching bag.
And the problem is, all of the Hawks went up. Yeah, all the Hawks went up. Well,
gonna try and get onto Ebby.
I don't know if you won that fight.
Three members.
With 3 members.
Finally, but it means that the Infernal Drake is a free pickup for DFM, and it'll get the mid lane turret as well. So a 1-for-1 and 2 objectives. Yes, please, say DFM. And Ebby's more than happy with that trade, buying a lot 100%. Of time and a lot of members' attention from the side of the ball.
And this just shows what DFM can do. They're so good at playing around a map and forcing you into one objective, into another objective. Ebby, for his death, picked up a kill, as well as basically got the whole team of the Hawks to go up to kill him while his team secured Dragon. And that basically means the Hawks can't get that Dragon point. Now imagine a world where the rest of the team decide, okay, that's fine. We all then rotate down bot. Well, Ebby just gets to get that top turret. He wasn't going to stop pushing unless people came up to stop him.
Yeah, and it's not just that as well. We're looking at some of the Ornn items coming through. That's the Trinity Fusion now for Ezreal. Strong point. The Trinity Force not far off from set, and I'm sure that will be upgraded shortly after as well.
Yep.
But the Hawks are not out of this game. They've still got a gold lead, incidentally. Just point that out.
Which is crazy.
And more than that, they have got carries that do scale very well. Vel'Koz is not exactly a slouch in the scaling department. Avelio scales so well. The later this game goes, and the more you kind of realize that DFM's one true damage threat is the Ezreal, and Set's kind of like got some. At least we'll have, but that's not like true late game team fight damage.
Yes, Set late game, especially Elise. Elise is known to be the early mid game queen, but late game, she's fine, but she's not the greatest. Her spike is in that early and mid game where she just has absurd amount of damage. Mordekaiser is one of these champions who, if you let go to late game, he will just put Utapoi in the death realm and go, I'm going to 1v1 you, and I actually win this because we've gone to a 40-50 minute game.
Well, that's partly why I think the QSS pickup for this Ezreal is pretty smart. Get yourself a quick Silver Sash. You can cleanse death, apparently.
Can you?
The laws of Runeterra are tricky ones. Yeah, you can cleanse your way out of the death realm.
Oh, well, that's a good way out.
Which is a pretty big pickup. Yeah, so plus some more magic resist versus this Vel'Koz and the Mordekaiser. Not a bad pickup in general.
No.
Ebby does miss the Death's Grasp, which is, or just escaped from the Death's Grasp from Dasher. Still continuing to be a complete nuisance in this side lane.
And he's been a nuisance even when they've not been getting kills.
Yes, and that's the big deal. Set is such a nuisance as a champion. It's kind of how I like to think of him. He just disrupts everything. Will continue to push and punch people in the face. The Call of Forge goal coming through. They're looking to try and get onto Honey because Gampu is not here. He does have Flash, does this Aphelios, and now he's in a pretty difficult position. Repel out from Steel means that the attempted rundown from Ramonade isn't going to be there, I don't think.
No, and
another Cocoon lands, and that's going to be the end of that.
Yeah, that's a lot of engaged, then a very quick disengage, but then the side of DFM, while they did put 2 ultimates into it, they're the ults that don't take the longest to come up, and Honey having to use that Cleanse Flash is arguably far more valuable for the side of DFM, getting those down, as we do see the Hawks starting to on this Baron.
Yeah, but Saros and Gang haven't left behind, and Pooh walks into Gang, and the Ezreal True Shot Barrage comes across. They're going to try and start a fight instead, forces the flash out of Gang, but that's just about it. Quite a low health bar on Dasher, though, could get picked up, and Ebby's not even teleporting it. He's just pushing in this lane. Like, yeah, you guys don't have the health bars for this. We'll keep poking you off. We have an Ezreal.
Saros is just chilling.
And Ebby's just like, yeah, well, I'm going to keep doing this. We just delay the backs, and maybe we even get a flipping inhibitor tower. Look at this. Oh, Saros, you really
Saros is going to keep messing. Oh, he keeps preventing the backs.
They're finally going to get some backs off. They do finally get a back from Dasher, though. That's not who you want to see. And Ebby might well at least get half the HP.
I think he can get all of this. If it's Dasher coming to stop him. Death Realm's not going to be close enough, and now Ebby isn't scared because he knows that tower's gone. He is going to be aware that there are going to be members, so he might as well try and get this kill. Oh!
Showstopper is big, does get a haymaker, he does get traded, but once again, it's for an inhibitor turret. You'll take that trade.
He will gladly take that trade, and that was so much pressure having to be taken from the side of the Hawks to just stop Ebby. But Ebby was able to get 2 turrets. That was that tier 2 turret finally going down, as well as then knocking on the door and opening bot side for DFM. And we know Ebby is going to be lining up that inhibitor going, well, that's my next target. And then once the inhibitor's down, I'll rotate to my next lane and I will keep applying pressure. I might be down in kills. I might have died 5 times, but that's 5 times that the Hawks basically are falling behind. And now DFM have that gold lead.
They do have that gold lead, and it's an Infernal Drake that's up. It's 1 apiece so far. That's a Cocoon onto Tussle, but the Merc Treads means that the CC isn't long enough to get on top of him. And Teleport coming into the tower just to be closer for the fight. Because they don't have any walls. They got 1 in the bank, but that would have been a flank that would have led to Dash's death because he has no Death Realm still. QSS also picked up by Ebby, incidentally, so even if he does get Death Realm, the end won't be stuck in there that time. Started up is the Infernal Drake by the Hawks.
But Ebby's already in that bot lane.
Okay, they're starting on to Saros, but he does searing charge his way away. And Tussle's pretty tanky. They've still got Cosmic Radiance, though, so health bars aren't as sort of be-all and end-all as they could be. Utapon is here. He's in a good position to start throwing some poke out. And the dragon resets. Hawks back here and starting.
Hawks really going for it.
The call of the Forge God is here. It's down at 2,000. The Death Grasp is avoided by a decent repel. Comes down, but no. Red team. Tussle picks it up. That's good for the Hawks. They're now at soul point, but DFM are looking for a fight. It's a big showstopper in the back end. Has no faster isn't here, and that's massive stuff. At DFM have crushed the fight. Inferno isn't enough. Shut down, and that was massive stuff. That showstopper was utterly show-stopping. It lived up to its name. The call of the Forge God, that wasn't up. It was just charging in.
It was just a charge knock-up for 3 members. And now they're going to just take this, and they're going to be able to, because with Syros coming in behind as well, and Steel has just such good life steal on this Elise at this current moment in time, it's just going to go down, and Utapon is so good at killing this as we go into a replay.
Yeah, look at this. You can see it's starting off well. Steel gets his way into the back of the pit here looking for the steal, but the call of the Forge God.
Death Realm Steel, which I just don't think that's the person you actually want to do, because he repels out and then just can flash away.
So the reason you do it is to stop any attempt at a steal, right? You cannot smite the objective when you're in the Death Realm. It means that it is secured then by the Hawks, but the fight afterwards, Ebby goes in.
That was everyone!
The combo is massive. It is showstopper into face breaker into searing charge. It's an Inferno that nearly claims a couple lives, but with the nerfs that Aphelios has gained, I don't care. It's not enough. And Ezreal, incidentally, is now at 4 items with a gunblade in there as well.
God, that is the scary, one of the scariest Ezreals I think we've ever seen in this game. Wow, DFM just turned this game. Well, would you even argue turned it? I think they more just solidified how far ahead.
6,000 gold ahead with all the shutdowns and stuff they picked up. Yes, the Hawks did well early. They got some good picks. They punished Ebby's kind of aggression. But, you know, he was 2-5 and 1 by the end of that last fight, before that last fight. And he was still the most useful 2-5 set I think I've seen in a very long time.
Oh, 100%.
And the Hawks were just kind of losing out in the map pressure. They're not out of this game. Let me make that entirely clear. There is 3 items on Aphelios, and we saw how much Honey did at the end of that fight. If he gets to free fire a bit more, it could all go wrong. Ramane gets free space to throw in a Death Cap empowered disintegration beam, and we could see it all go wrong yet. This is by no means done. They've got Soul Point as well. Infernal Soul is on the cards if they can weather this Baron push. But that's the key. Can they weather it? There's an inhibitor exposed. And I don't think Honey has enough wave clear to save this mid lane tier 2 at the very least.
No, and this is DFM doing a 1-3-1 comp where because they've got Ornn and Set, they can keep applying pressure. And because Utapon is so good at doing this wave clear, they just got the mid turret tier 2, and now Ebby is going to take this top one as well. As Syros in this bot lane is still pushing, asking Ramane, go on, clear it a little bit. I'll keep pushing and you can keep taking damage as my mid lane will keep going. As we can see all 3 lanes pushing in on the side of the Hawks.
Yeah. The camera zooms out to show the full court press. There are cannons shooting from everywhere. And the problem with all this magic damage means that these cannon minions are so hard to kill with resistances added on from the Baron. The 3 waves are all pushing in. Honey steps forward at Saros, desperately trying to keep this inhibitor at least alive. But Ebby is sort of here under tower, takes a bit of damage, but it's a 3-level
advantage
to Dasher, and he cures us out of the Death Realm, and that just means he does win that. And they tried desperately to find a pick onto this Ezreal, who's just far too strong to think about doing that. Yeah, top
6 seconds off the Baron.
Turrets down. Inhibitors are going to survive maybe, but Ebby with the wits end empowered attack speed, doing so much work. They don't even need the Baron at this point. They're just going to continue to push in. They want at least 1 before they back away, I imagine. Ebby is here, might trade his life for this. Does get an inhibitor.
And then they all run away.
They all back away. And the reason they'll back away is because the Infernal Drake is coming up in 45 seconds. And that would be Infernal Soul for the Hawks. And with Death Realm a thing for Dasher, which I'm assuming will be up in time, they won't be able to do what they did in the last one, pull Steel out of there. And if they can keep Steel out and unable to smite, the Hawks with Infernal Soul have options. All of that. Imagine Infernal Soul on something like a Vel'Koz. On top of this Aphelios, who is at 3.5 items, it could all go real wrong real fast for DFM. Yeah.
And that is how the Hawks need to aggressively fight. You can see they pushed out that top wave. They know it's all or nothing. The problem is Utapon and Ebby still have teleport. There isn't any of their deep wars like DFM really do love to do. But the Hawks really do have to pressure this, and they're really trying to do it. As Ebby does TP into that bot lane.
Death Realm is here, and so DFM are looking to do either get this Drake or win the fight. What either or would win them the game, you feel.
Well, the Hawks are really going for it.
Away. The Death Realmed him. They've got the
they got it.
Soul, and now they're going to see how they fight. Utapon is in here, has to arcane shift out.
Just coming in now.
Getting attacked by Pooh. Ebby's in the backline now. The Hawks are stuck in this pit.
Oh no, it's a repeat.
Showstopper is massive, and the damage is here. All of the CC combo. It's a double kill for Set. It's another couple kills. It's a full ace. And with that, the pit boss in the Dragon Pit wins DFM the game. Infernal Soul means nothing. And it's another game win for DFM. They'll be moving to 11-1. It's heartbreak for Hawks. They thought they had found a win condition, and it wasn't quite enough. The fight afterwards claimed by a well-played fight from DFM.
What a phenomenal game by DFM, really proving as we come back over. I am still Alex, otherwise known as XCI by Master on the internet, and of course I'm joined by Sam Hapgood, otherwise known as Initialize, as we come back to the desk. Wow! DFM, they basically played the same two games back to back, but that second time was so much cleaner by DFM. They have figured out a way to truly play around this map, truly do a teleport victory, and wow, I am scared to see Ebby on Set now. He can fall behind with air quotation marks, but he looked so strong, and his ultimate is why you play Set. My god, his showstoppers as well were just, well, show-stopping.
Well, they won two key fights around those Infernal Drakes, and you kind of saw what... The thing is, you said he was behind. I don't think he ever really was.
It was air quotation behind, right?
And he had the experience lead, and yet he still had like item leads. He was winning the 1v1. I think that Wit's End pickup was really smart versus all the AP damage. But like yes, he died a lot, but those deaths bought DFM a lot of time, a lot of pressure, and they kept the gold lead even when the Hawks did pick up a number of kills. But credit to the Hawks, right? Like they definitely brought it to DFM. They had ways to win that game. But the problem was that basically they eventually hit this point where they just didn't have an answer to the Set in the side lane. They were getting a lot of poke from Ezreal, who went haunting Guy's last item, by the way, guys. I didn't get a chance to say it because we ran straight into the Infernal fight. But like he had gone full hybrid late game Ezreal build where he was just crapping out damage with those ornaments on top of it. And like the Hawks never got a fight where their carries of Honey and Ramune could free fire, could get good disintegration rays off and the rest of it. And that meant that the tanky bounce house CC combo of DFM could just run over those fights.
But this is something that I mentioned in the pre-show, and then in both of the drafts that we want to talk about, I had been criticizing DFM on that engage that they had. How much stronger did DFM feel at every moment in these two games that they played? Having that engage, it almost doesn't matter what the rest of their team is doing because they find it so hard to fall behind when they have that engage. And arguably, they had more engage than they ever do with a Braum, a Set, and an Ornn.
Yeah.
With an Elise Cocoon as well.
Sure, exactly. I mean, it's not just that, though, because actually we do have to call out some stuff as well, because that's two games in a row where DFM dropped a lot of kills early on. There was that Rift Herald fight, which went really wrong for them. We saw Set get picked off once or twice when they went for that tower dive. Yes, it was a 1-for-2. The first blood did go the way of Steel, but like it was a good turnaround by Tussle, and Tussle did a lot with those early kills, found a lot of pressure across the map. But, you know, that is two games in a row. We've seen DFM... yes, they dealt and they mitigated the damage those kills did, and that's kudos to them for that. But they were giving up kills that maybe they shouldn't have been. They were contesting things that maybe they shouldn't have been. Yeah. And this could bite them yet. And you saw Sengoku did pull off a win, kind of punishing DFM's habits around tower dives, or getting tower dive. We saw DFM get punished this game by their ability, or their kind of when they set their eyes on an objective, they kind of contest for it. And this time they kind of did get a bit punished for it.
They really
still ended up with
did.
the win. Still played those fights very well. Set in the sideline, still did a lot of work.
Yes, and that is one thing I do think Ebby, across these both games, really played the side lane pressure impeccably. Like, the amount of towers that Ebby basically forced down on his own by just kind of being in the right spot at the right time, it stops being the right spot in the right time, and it's just knowing what to do. And it's just like, I'm not lucky. I'm just really good because I know you can't fight me, and if you fight me, I can take this bot. We saw him take the bot turret, tier 2 turret, into the base turret, into then rotating around, taking that top turret, taking the top inhib turret, and then the inhib, just pressuring so much, and then allowing the rest of his team to basically go play around what I'm doing. Doesn't matter, just don't fight them because we can pressure them more than anything.
And like, I didn't really see the Jarvan engage on the front foot as much as I'd have liked in those mid-game team fights. We didn't see the Cosmic Radiance, Jarvan, flag and drags in. I mean, it is quite hard because the one true carry in a lot of ways is the Ezreal, who has QSS, has Flash, has Arcane Shift, quite difficult to pin down.
Yep.
And that was a problem. And then they were like engaging on Seros. It's like, yes, you've engaged on me for a bit, but I'm unstoppable when I use my Bellows Breath. I've got a Searing Charge. Like, not the easiest pick targets available. If they had chance to throw some consistent damage down, if they had chance to research their targets for the Vel'Kars, they could have disintegrated people away, but never really had that chance. We saw that one Inferno ult that nearly cleaned up a number of members at that third Drake fight. But it was just an issue where they could never quite pick up the kills they needed, could never engage quite as they wanted, and DFM pick up the win. And I think probably deservedly so.
Yeah, and I really do want to call out Gang for that. His Braum against Ramone's Vel'Koz was arguably the game breaker in a lot of spots where I don't think you really expect it. Yes, they had great engage from Ebby on this set, and then Syros was coming up and doing 3-4 man, just not even ults, just ramming knockups. It was impeccable, but Gang took away so much of the burst that, well, the Hawks drafted for, and that Ornn came so important. They were so concerned with the Ezreal Yuumi. Braum was arguably the perfect pickup and arguably prevented a lot of damage coming through. But with that all said, Initialize, you are actually going to be tagged out for Nymera. Have you got any closing thoughts for today?
I mean, we saw DFM pick up 2 wins off some pretty exceptional late-game team fighting and decision-making. We saw a couple weaknesses out of them yet, though, and they'll have another couple games tomorrow. I think they probably pretty much locked in first place at this point.
They are now. With that win, that locks them.
Yeah, they are. There's no one who can match them. They are our first-place team for the LJL coming into the playoffs, and that's not a surprise how their early weeks went, particularly. The rest of the league is all up for fighting for, and that's what you guys will be casting as we go on a little bit today. So I'm looking forward to catching some of those games a little later on, and I'm sad to have to bow out.
Those last 2 games, which we will be covering today, is going to be the Sengoku Gaming versus the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks. So it's really important for Hawks here. Now at the very bottom of the standings, in 5th place now at that 4-7 record, because they were the first ones to play. It is going to be interesting to see how this goes, as well, Sengoku probably want to really fight for that 2nd place spot. It really does help in the longevity, because you can lose that game to DFM at the very top of the standings, but then you're still pushed into a really late game place, which puts you in a really good spot to still being in that finals. And our last game of the day, which we'll be covering, is going to be Crest Gaming Act versus the Jesters. Again, really important game for Crest and the Hawk, and especially for the Jesters. It's so much to play for at this last point. God, you can't help but get excited and hyped.
It's going to be huge, and I wish you guys the best of luck on that cast, and the teams the best of luck as well. This is it. This is crunch time. DFM kind of claimed their sort of end of split standing crowns. They've got to go claim reclaim their trophy through the playoffs yet, but they're already locked in. They're quite happy, and they may even just take a little bit of a back step in the games tomorrow because they don't want to reveal too much, maybe, but we'll see when it comes.
We will indeed see. We're going to go on a slightly longer break now while we get Nymera in and just basically get everything else set up. We will see you tomorrow, Initialize, for our remaining 4 games, so do not worry. we will be seeing him very shortly, as always, as I need them both, as always, because I can't do much without them, because, well, I need them. They are my co-hosts,
yes.
my co-commentators, everything. It's not without them. So we will see you very shortly after this break.